Captain Daeho Kim stared at the view screen as his ship drifted past Saturn's rings. The ice particles glittered like diamonds in the distant sunlight. He had been patrolling this sector for 3 months now, and nothing ever happened out here. His crew was bored. He was bored. But orders were orders, and Earth needed eyes on the outer system. Lieutenant Minji Park looked up from her console. Her face was troubled. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Multiple hyperspace signatures forming near Neptune's orbit." Daeho straightened in his chair. Hyperspace signatures meant visitors, and Earth didn't get many friendly ones these days. "How many?" "At least 40 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're big." Minji's fingers danced across her controls. "Definitely military-class vessels. Wait, ... I'm getting an identification ping. They're Vacrine." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about the Vacrine Dominion. They controlled 47 star systems and had one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. They were reptilian, aggressive, and they didn't like humanity very much. "Send a message to Earth Command," Daeho said quietly. "Let them know we have company." 3 hours later, Daeho sat in his quarters, watching the emergency broadcast from Earth. Ambassador Junho Lee stood before the Galactic Council, his face carefully neutral as he read the ultimatum the Vacrine had delivered. The terms were simple and brutal. Earth would surrender control of all asteroid mining operations in the Sol system. Earth would accept Vacrine military advisors to oversee their defense forces. Earth would pay annual tribute to the Vacrine Dominion for the next 50 years. The Galactic Council had voted on the matter. 8 species voted in favor of the ultimatum. 2 abstained. 0 voted against it. Earth had 30 days to comply. Daeho turned off the screen and sat in the darkness. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was 7 years old. He wondered what kind of world she would grow up in if Earth accepted these terms. A world where humanity bowed to anyone strong enough to make demands. On Earth, Premier Hiron Choi sat in the emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Around her, representatives from every nation shouted and argued. Some wanted to accept the ultimatum. They said Earth was too weak to fight. Others wanted to reject it immediately. They said freedom was worth any price. Heron waited until the room grew quiet. Then she stood and spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. "My father once told me a story. A wolf came to a village and demanded they give him 1 sheep every week. The villagers agreed because they were afraid. The next year, the wolf demanded 2 sheep, then 5, then 10. Eventually, there were no sheep left, so the wolf started taking their children." She paused and looked around the room. "The Vacrine think we are sheep. They think we will give them whatever they want because we are young and weak. They think we will keep giving until there is nothing left to take. I say we show them what humans really are." The vote was close, but the result was clear. Earth would reject the ultimatum. Admiral Sun Wukong stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface. Around him were the best military minds humanity had. They had 30 days to prepare for war against an enemy that outgunned them by 100 to 1. "We can't beat them in a straight fight," said Commander Jiwan Beek. She was young but brilliant, one of the designers of Earth's stealth ship program. "But we don't need to fight them straight." "Explain." Sunwoo said. Ji-1 pulled up a holographic display of the Sol system. "The Vacrine think like all the other council species. They believe in honor. They believe in rules. They fight wars the way they've always fought wars, with big fleets and bigger guns. They'll come at us expecting the same." She zoomed in on the outer system. "We've been seeding stealth drones out here for 10 years. Thousands of them. Small, cold, nearly invisible. The Council thinks they're just monitoring equipment. They're not." Engineer Taeyan Nam stepped forward. He looked tired but excited. Each drone carries a kinetic penetrator. Nothing fancy, just a tungsten rod and a very powerful engine. But they're small enough and numerous enough that traditional point defense systems won't be able to stop them all. Sun Wu studied the display. You want to use a swarm tactic. Exactly, Jiwan said. Let them come into the system. Let them think they're winning. Then hit them from every direction at once, with weapons they're not prepared for. It's risky, Sun Wu said. If it doesn't work, they'll be at Earth's doorstep with their full fleet intact. If we fight them the traditional way, we lose for certain, Taeyan replied. This way, we at least have a chance. Sun Wu thought about it for a long moment. Then he nodded. Prepare the operation. Code-name it Hornet's Nest. The 30 days passed quickly. Daiho's ship returned to Mars orbit, where the rest of Earth's defensive fleet was gathering. 89 ships in total. It looked impressive until you remembered the Vakring were bringing more than that just in their advance force. Minji found Daiho in the observation deck, staring at Earth through the window. The planet looked so peaceful from up here. Blue and white and perfect. Do you think we can win, sir? She asked. Daiho didn't answer right away. I think we can make them regret starting this fight. Maybe that's enough. On the 30th day, the Vakring fleet arrived. 120 capital ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They arranged themselves in a perfect formation and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Fleet, Commander Thex Rao's message was simple. Humans of Earth, your time is up. Surrender now or face destruction. You have 1 hour. Ambassador Juno sat in the council chambers, watching the other species. Some looked satisfied. Some looked worried. The Telmorian ambassador, Counselor Velm, caught his eye and shook their heads sadly. Junho stood and activated his communicator. His voice was broadcast to every ship in the Vakring fleet and every delegate in the council chamber. This is Ambassador Junho Lee of Earth. We have considered your ultimatum carefully. Our answer is no. We will not surrender. We will not bow. We will not give you our freedom. If you want it, come and take it. The council chamber erupted in chaos. The Vakring delegate roared in fury. Several other species began shouting. Counselor Velm simply closed their eyes and whispered a prayer for both sides. In space, the Vakring fleet began moving forward. Their weapons charged. Their shields powered up. They were confident and ready. After all, what could one primitive species possibly do against the might of the Dominion? On the bridge of the Indomitable, Daiho watched the enemy fleet approach. He thought about his daughter one more time. Then he opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every species that's ever been bullied by those stronger than them. Let's make this count. The crew responded with determination in their voices. They were scared. They were outnumbered. But they were ready. The war had begun. The Vakring fleet moved through the outer Sol system like a massive predator stalking its prey. Their ships were huge and powerful, covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons. Fleet Commander Thex Rao sat on his command throne, confident in his overwhelming advantage. He had destroyed rebellious species before. This would be no different. The human ships are retreating, his sensor officer reported. They appear to be falling back toward the inner system. Thex Rao showed his teeth in what passed for a Vakring smile. Of course they are. They see our strength and they run. Let them flee to their planet. We will follow and show them the price of defiance. The Vakring fleet accelerated, maintaining their perfect formation. They had done this 1,000 times before. Their tactics were proven over centuries of warfare. Their technology was superior. Their crews were experienced. There was no possible way these primitive humans could stand against them. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Deho watched his tactical display as the Vakrine pursued. His ship and 47 others were indeed retreating, but not out of fear. They were leading the enemy exactly where Admiral Sunwoo wanted them. How long until they reached the kill zone? Deho asked. Minji checked her calculations. 15 minutes, sir. They're following us perfectly. They don't suspect anything. Good. Make sure our retreat looks convincing. Fire off a few shots that miss. Make them think we're panicking. The Earth ships continued their apparent flight, occasionally turning to launch missiles that the Vakrine easily destroyed. The enemy fleet grew more confident with each passing minute. They didn't notice the thousands of tiny objects floating in the darkness around them. Objects that had been waiting in the cold silence of space for years. Commander Jiwon Beek sat in a command center on Mars, watching the feed from 100 different sensors. She could see every ship, every drone, every piece of the trap they had set. Her finger hovered over the activation button. Beside her, Engineer Taeyeon monitored the power systems. Everything was ready. Admiral, the enemy fleet is in position, Jiwon reported. Admiral Sunwoo studied the tactical display for a long moment. He thought about all the lives that would end in the next few minutes. Human lives and Vakrine lives. War was ugly and brutal, but the Vakrine had started this. Earth was simply going to finish it. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest, Sunwoo said quietly. Jiwon pressed the button. In the darkness of space, thousands of stealth drones suddenly came to life. Their engines ignited, accelerating them to incredible speeds. They were small, no bigger than a trash can, but they were fast, and there were so many of them. They came from every direction at once, swarming toward the Vakrine fleet like angry hornets. On Nexrel's flagship, alarms began screaming. Commander. Multiple contacts. Thousands of them. They're coming from everywhere. Nexrel jumped to his feet. Fire. Fire everything. Point defense systems to maximum. The Vakrine ships opened fire with their defensive weapons. Energy beams lanced through space, destroying dozens of drones. Then hundreds. But for every drone they destroyed, 10 more got through. The Vakrine systems had been designed to stop missiles and fighters, not a swarm of tiny objects moving at relativistic speeds. The first drone struck home. Tungsten penetrators moving at enormous velocity punched through shields and armor like they were paper. Explosions rippled across Vakrine ships as the kinetic energy released. Hulls breached. Atmosphere vented into space. Systems failed. Shields are down on forward sections. A Vakrine officer shouted, "We have multiple hull breaches." Engineering is. The bridge exploded as 3 more drones struck it directly. Nexrel's flagship began to tumble, powerless and dying. All across the Vakrine fleet, the same scene repeated. The elegant formation dissolved into chaos. Ships tried to maneuver away from the swarm, only to collide with each other or expose new angles to the attacking drones. Their heavy weapons were useless against targets so small and fast. Their shields couldn't regenerate fast enough. Their armor meant nothing against pure kinetic force. Deho watched the carnage on his displays. He felt no joy in it, only grim satisfaction. All ships advance. Launch missiles at any target that's been breached by the drones. Focus on their engines and weapon systems. The Earth fleet turned and charged back toward the crippled Vakrine ships. Their missiles had special warheads that Engineer Taeyeon had designed. Instead of explosives, they carried tungsten cores that could punch through the holes the drones had made. No shields. No armor. Just direct hits to critical systems. Minji coordinated the targeting with cold precision. Target priority, Alpha. Enemy carrier, bearing 270. Fire. Missiles away. The carrier tried to maneuver, but it was already dying from 100 drone impacts. The human missiles found their marks. The ship's power core went critical, and the carrier vanished in a brief flash of light. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 73 Vacrine ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled into hyperspace, abandoning their dead and their wounded. They had come expecting an easy victory and found a nightmare instead. Tejo sat back in his chair as the last enemy ship jumped away. His hands were shaking slightly. Around him, his crew was cheering, but he couldn't join them. He was thinking about all the Vacrine who had just died. They were the enemy, yes, but they were still living beings. This was what war really was. Not glorious, just sad and terrible and necessary. "Sir, Admiral Sunwoo is requesting a status report," Minji said. "Tell him we lost 4 ships. The volunteers who drew the enemy's initial fire." Daiho paused. "Tell him we're coming home." On Earth, the footage of the battle was broadcast to every screen. People watched in stunned silence as the mighty Vacrine fleet was torn apart by weapons they hadn't even known existed. When it was over, the silence turned to cheering. Humanity had won its first real battle against a galactic power. Premier Hiren watched the footage in her office. Unlike the celebrating crowds, she looked troubled. She called Admiral Sunwoo on a secure channel. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" she asked. "Yes, Premier. The Vacrine won't accept this defeat. They'll come back with more ships, and they'll be prepared for our tactics. And the rest of the Council will have to respond. We've just embarrassed them all. How long do we have?" "Weeks, maybe a month. They'll need time to organize a proper response." Hiren nodded slowly. "Then we use that time to prepare. What do you need?" "Everything, Premier. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Because when they come back, they won't make the same mistakes twice." In the Galactic Council chambers, the delegates watched the battle footage in shock. For 400 years, the Council had maintained order through a simple principle. Junior species didn't challenge senior species. Ever. The hierarchy was absolute. Until now. Ambassador Juno stood and addressed the Council. His voice was calm, but his message was clear. Earth did not want this war. We asked only to be left alone. But you voted to support the Vacrine ultimatum. You decided our freedom was negotiable. Now you've seen the result. I ask you all to consider carefully. Is this really a war you want to continue? The Vacrine delegate, one of the few who had survived the battle, roared in fury. "You dare! You primitive animals! You will pay for this massacre. The Dominion will crush you." "You tried that already," Juno replied quietly. "How did it work out?" Counselor Velm, the Telmorian delegate, spoke up. Their voice was sad but firm. "The humans are correct. This war should never have started." The Council erred in supporting the Vacrine ultimatum. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our policies toward younger species. "Coward!" The Vacrine delegate spat. "They destroyed our fleet. They must be punished." "They defended their home," Velm countered. "There is no dishonor in that. The dishonor was in the demand we surrender their freedom." The Council dissolved into arguments. Species took sides. Alliances formed and broke. The old order that had governed the galaxy for centuries was cracking. And at the center of it all was one small blue planet that had refused to bow. Dr. Yona Shin sat in her laboratory, studying the data from the battle. She was a xenobiologist, an expert in alien species. Her job was to understand how different aliens thought and fought. The Vacrine would be back, and they would be angry. She needed to understand their psychology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Because the next battle would be even harder than this one. As she worked through the night, She kept thinking about something her grandmother had told her years ago. The first battle is won with surprise. The second battle is won with preparation. The third battle is won with determination. Pray you never need to fight a fourth. Earth had won the first battle. Now they needed to prepare for the second. And Yona had a feeling that determination would be tested before this war was over. 3 weeks after the battle at Saturn, the galaxy was changing. The Vacrine Dominion was gathering allies and preparing for revenge. In the council chambers, 6 species had pledged ships to a second strike force. The message was clear. Earth had crossed a line, and they would be made an example. Ambassador Juno sat through another session where delegates condemned Earth's actions. They called humans barbaric. They called the drone attack cowardly. They said Earth must be punished for its aggression. The hypocrisy was stunning, but Juno kept his face neutral. Getting angry would accomplish nothing. After the session, Councillor Velm approached him privately. The Telmurian looked worried. Ambassador Juno, you should know that the fleet gathering at Nexus Prime is larger than expected. At least 200 ships from 6 different species. They plan to attack Earth within the month. Thank you for the warning, Juno said. Though I suspect my government already knows. What will Earth do? Velm asked quietly. Junho met their eyes. Whatever we must. On Earth, the same question was being debated in the war room. Admiral Sunwoo stood before a holographic display showing the Nexus Prime shipyards. It was a massive complex in the Kelvin system, supposedly neutral territory protected by council law. Ships from multiple species were gathering there, preparing to strike Earth. We should fortify our defenses, said one general. Let them come to us. We won the first battle by fighting on our terms. They know our tactics now, G1 countered. They'll be prepared for the drones. They'll come in with better shields and point defense. We need a new approach. Engineer Taeyon stepped forward. I have a proposal, but you won't like it. He brought up schematics on the display. We've developed a new weapon system. Fusion-pumped lasers with power output far beyond anything the Council species use. We could build enough to equip 20 ships within 2 weeks. And? Sunwoo asked. And we use them to strike Nexus Prime before the fleet there launches. Hit them while they're still docked and vulnerable. The room went silent. Everyone understood what Taeyon was suggesting. Nexus Prime was protected space. Attacking it would be seen as an act of aggression against the entire Council. It would make Earth look like the bad guys. It's madness, said another admiral. We'd unite the entire galaxy against us. The galaxy is already against us, Ji-Wan said. 6 species are gathering a fleet to destroy Earth. How many more will join if we look weak? At least this way, we show them the cost of threatening us. Premier Hiron listened to the debate without speaking. She was thinking about her daughter, safe in a shelter deep underground. She was thinking about all the children on Earth who deserve to grow up free. She was thinking about the price of freedom and whether any price was too high. Finally, she spoke. They drew the line when they supported the Vacrine ultimatum. They crossed it when they started building a fleet to attack us. If we wait for them to strike first, we fight a defensive war against an enemy that outnumbers us. I won't gamble Earth's survival on hoping our defenses hold. She looked around the room. We strike Nexus Prime. We strike hard. And we make it clear that threatening Earth has consequences. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Captain Daeho would lead a strike force of 24 ships. They would infiltrate the Kelvin system and destroy the gathering fleet before it could launch. Daeho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as his small fleet prepared to leave. Minji, now promoted to commander, would lead a second ship in the attack. She looked nervous but determined. "This is different from the last battle," she said quietly. "We're not defending anymore. We're attacking." "I know," Deo replied. "But if we don't, that fleet will come to Earth. Better to stop them there than fight them at our doorstep." The journey to the Kelvin system took 9 days. They traveled slowly, keeping their stealth systems active. The ships hid in the dense asteroid field at the edge of the system, watching and waiting. They gathered intelligence on the enemy positions, noting which ships were fully crewed and which were still being outfitted. Dr. Yona analyzed the data they collected. She identified the key targets: ammunition depots, fuel storage, command ships. If they struck those first, the rest of the fleet would be crippled before they could respond. On the 9th night, the strike force moved into position. They came from different angles, each ship targeting a specific section of the shipyard. Tayun's new laser weapons were charged and ready. The plan was simple and brutal: strike simultaneously, maximize damage, and withdraw before the enemy could organize a response. Daiho gave the order. All ships fire. 24 fusion-pumped lasers opened fire at once. The beams were invisible in vacuum, but their effects were devastating. They cut through station defenses like hot knives through butter. Docking clamps exploded. Fuel depots erupted in massive fireballs. Command ships that were supposed to lead the attack on Earth died before their crews could reach battle stations. The attack lasted 17 minutes. In that time, 37 ships were destroyed or disabled. The strategic capacity of the anti-Earth coalition was crippled. The Nexus Prime shipyards burned, and the flames could be seen from the planet below Dot as the Earth fleet withdrew. Admiral Sun Wu broadcast a message on all council frequencies. His voice was calm, but his words were ice cold. "This is Admiral Sun Wu Kang of the Earth Defense Forces. You threatened our home. You gathered your fleets to destroy us. This is the result. Stand down now, or we will bring this war to every system that sided against you. The choice is yours." The message spread across the galaxy within hours. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Some species recalled their ships from Nexus Prime, deciding Earth was too dangerous to fight. Others grew more determined to destroy humanity before it became an even bigger threat. The Vacrine response was pure rage. Their fleet had been destroyed. Their allies had been humiliated. The entire galaxy was watching, and the Dominion looked weak. This could not stand. Fleet Lord Krevshan, the supreme commander of Vacrine forces, swore a blood oath to personally lead the attack on Earth Dot. In the council chambers, the debate grew heated. Half the delegates wanted to quarantine the Sol system and starve Earth into submission. The other half argued that Earth had only defended itself against aggression. The old alliances were breaking down. Species that had been friends for centuries now stood on opposite sides. Ambassador Junho watched it all with careful attention. He could see the council fracturing. The old order, where a few powerful species dictated terms to everyone else, was dying. In its place was chaos, but also opportunity. If Earth could survive the coming storm, humanity might emerge as a real power in galactic politics. But surviving was the hard part. Junho received a coded message from Earth. The Vacrine were gathering every ship they had. Their client species were being forced to contribute vessels and crews. Within weeks, Earth would face a fleet 3 times larger than the one that had attacked before. Counselor Velm found him in a quiet corridor after the session. "Your people have awakened something terrible, Ambassador. The Vacrine will not stop until Earth is conquered or destroyed. And there are others on the council who fear what humanity might become if you're allowed to continue." "What would you have us do?" Junho asked. "Surrender? Accept slavery? That's not going to happen." "I know," Velm said sadly. "My people have lived under council rule for 600 years. We followed the rules. We accepted our place. We survived. But we were never truly free. They paused. Part of me admires what you're doing. Part of me fears it. And part of me hopes you succeed, because if you do, perhaps other species will find the courage to stand as well. Jun-Ho smiled grimly. Then pray for us, counselor, because this is going to get much worse before it gets better. On Earth, celebrations over the Nexus Prime victory were short-lived. Intelligence reports showed the size of the force the Vacrine were assembling. 340 ships. It was the largest fleet ever sent against a single planet in modern galactic history. Premier. Hiren addressed the United Earth Assembly one final time before the battle. She didn't talk about victory or glory. She talked about what they were fighting for. Freedom to make their own choices. Freedom to raise their children in peace. Freedom from tyranny, no matter what form it took. We didn't ask for this war, she said, but we will finish it. Not because we're stronger, but because we have something worth fighting for. Earth will stand. And when this is over, the galaxy will know that humanity bows to no one. The applause that followed was deafening. But Hiren saw the fear in their eyes too. Everyone knew the odds. Everyone knew how many might die in the coming battle. But they also knew there was no choice. Sometimes you had to fight, not because you could win, but because the alternative was worse than death. Admiral, Sun Wu received the authorization codes for Earth's final weapon. The antimatter warheads that engineer Taeyun had built in secret. 12 weapons that could end battles, but would mark humanity as a species willing to use weapons of mass destruction. It was a line once crossed that could never be uncrossed. He looked at the codes for a long time. Then he secured them in his personal safe and went to brief his fleet commanders. The Vacrine were coming, and Earth would be ready. The Vacrine fleet entered the Sol system like a storm of steel and fury. 340 ships arranged in a formation that seemed to swallow the stars. Fleet Lord Krev-Shan stood on his command deck, surrounded by holographic displays showing every vessel under his command. This time there would be no mistakes. This time the humans would learn their place. All ships report ready, Fleet Lord, his second-in-command announced. Good, Krev-Shan growled. Maintain irregular spacing. Full sensor sweeps at all times. If they try their drone attack again, we will be ready. He opened a channel to all his ships. Warriors of the Dominion, today we restore our honor. Today we show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. Destroy everything. On Mars, Admiral Sun Wu watched the enemy fleet approach. His own fleet, 89 ships, looked pitifully small in comparison. But they were positioned well, using Mars as cover and supporting each other's defensive zones. This would be a real battle, ship against ship, and the outcome was far from certain. All ships report battle ready, Commander Jiwan reported from her vessel. Drone reserves are deployed, but the enemy formation is too spread out. We can't hit them all at once, like before. I know, Sun Wu replied. That's why we're going to fight them the old-fashioned way. All ships, advance to engagement range. Make them come through us to reach Earth. Captain Deho felt the Indomitable accelerate toward the enemy. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this. They were ready. But he could see the fear in their eyes. Everyone could do the math. For every enemy ship they destroyed, Earth would likely lose 2 of their own. Steady, he told them. We hold this line, no matter what. The 2 fleets met at Mars orbit. The battle began with long-range missile exchanges. Thousands of weapons streaked through space, intercepted by point defense systems or detonating against shields. The darkness lit up with explosions like a deadly fireworks display. Enemy cruiser targeting us, Ninji called out. She was piloting her own ship now, coordinating with the Indomitable. returning fire. The Vacrine ship was larger and more heavily armed, but human weapons were more precise. Minji's missiles found weak points in its armor, exploiting gaps in the shield coverage. The cruiser took damage, but kept coming, its own weapons hammering at her shields. All across the battlefield, similar fights played out. Earth's ships were faster and more maneuverable, darting in to strike and pulling back before the enemy could respond effectively. But there were just so many Vacrine vessels. For every one they damaged, 2 more moved in to take its place. Daiho's tactical display showed the numbers shifting. They had destroyed 18 enemy ships, but lost 12 of their own. The math was brutal and simple. At this rate, Earth's fleet would be gone before they eliminated even half the enemy force. "Admiral, we're taking heavy casualties," Jiwan reported. Her voice was strained. "We can't hold this position much longer." Sun Wu stared at the display, his face carved from stone. He had known this moment would come. He had hoped to avoid it. But the survival of Earth was more important than his conscience. He opened a secure channel to Premier Hiron. "Premier, I'm requesting authorization to use the antimatter warheads." There was a long pause. Then Hiron's voice came through, heavy with the weight of the decision. "Authorization granted. 3 warheads only. Make them count." Sun Wu turned to Daiho. "Captain, you have the most experience with precision strikes. Select 3 targets in the enemy formation that will cause maximum disruption. You'll deliver the warheads personally." Daiho felt his stomach tighten. He had known about the antimatter weapons, but hoped they wouldn't be needed. Once used, there was no going back. Humanity would be known as a species that wielded weapons of mass destruction. But looking at his dying fleet, he knew there was no choice. "Understood, Admiral." Selecting targets now. He studied the enemy formation with Minji's help. 3 Vacrine command carriers, positioned to coordinate different sections of their fleet. If those ships died, the enemy formation would dissolve into chaos. It was the perfect target. "Minji, I need your ship and 2 others to screen me. We're making a run at those carriers." "Sir, that's a suicide run. We'll never make it through their defensive line. We have to try. It's the only way to turn this battle." Minji was silent for a moment. Then her voice came back, firm and resolved. "Understood, sir. My ship will take point. Let's finish this." The Indomitable and 3 escort vessels broke formation and accelerated toward the enemy line. Immediately, dozens of Vacrine ships moved to intercept. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around them. One escort exploded within seconds. Another lost its engines and tumbled away lifeless. "Shields at 40%, his tactical officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. "Keep going," Daiho ordered. "We have to get within range." Minji's ship positioned itself between the Indomitable and the heaviest enemy fire. Her shields glowed white-hot as they absorbed hit after hit. "Captain, launch when ready. We can't hold much longer." Daiho armed the first antimatter warhead. The weapon was small, almost delicate-looking, but it contained enough destructive power to vaporize a city. He targeted the closest carrier and fired. The missile streaked through space faster than the enemy could track. It penetrated the carrier's shields and detonated deep inside the ship. For a brief instant, a small star was born in the darkness. The carrier and everything within 3 kilometers simply ceased to exist. The shockwave from the hawkwave. Explosions scattered the nearby Vacrine ships like leaves in a storm. Daiho didn't wait. He launched the 2nd and 3rd warheads at the remaining carriers. 2 more stars bloomed in the night. 2 more sections of the Vacrine fleet dissolved into chaos. On Earth, people watched the battle on screens across every city. They saw the antimatter detonations, visible even from the planet's surface. Some cheered, others wept. Everyone understood that humanity had crossed a line. The Vacrine formation collapsed. Without their command carriers, individual captains made their own decisions. Some continued the attack. Others pulled back to regroup. The coordination that had made them so dangerous was gone. All ships advance. Sun Wu ordered. Hit them while they're disorganized. The Earth fleet surged forward. They were battered and bleeding, but they could smell victory now. They focused on the confused enemy ships, destroying them one by one before they could rally. But Minji's ship had taken too much damage. "Captain, my engines are gone. Life support is failing. I'm ordering my crew to evacuate." "Negative," Deho said. "Hold position. I'm coming to get you." "There's no time, sir. The enemy is regrouping. You need to press the advantage. I'm not leaving you behind." "Yes, you are," Minji said. Her voice was calm now, almost peaceful. "Tell my family I did my duty. Tell them I helped save Earth." Then her channel linked dead. Deho watched helplessly as Minji's ship drifted into a group of Vacrine vessels. They fired on it, tearing it apart. He hoped she had gotten her crew off in time. He hoped she hadn't suffered. But he knew the cold equations of war didn't care about hope. The battle raged for another 2 hours. When it was finally over, the Vacrine fleet was broken. 119 ships limped away into hyperspace, leaving behind wreckage and bodies. Earth's fleet had been reduced to 37 operational vessels. The victory had cost them dearly. In the council chambers, the delegates watched footage of the antimatter detonations in stunned silence. Ambassador Juno stood and spoke into that silence. "Earth did not want to use these weapons. But you gave us no choice. You sent a fleet to destroy us. We defended ourselves. If that makes us monsters, then look to yourselves for creating us." Councillor Velm stood as well. Their voice carried across the chamber. "The Telnorian Confederation formally proposes that Earth be granted senior species status with full voting rights in this council. They have proven themselves in battle. They have shown they will defend their freedom at any cost. Perhaps it is time we treated them as equals." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported the motion. Others violently opposed it. But everyone knew that everything had changed. Earth had shown they would use any weapon, pay any price, to survive. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Deho sat alone in the captain's chair. The ship was damaged but intact. His crew was exhausted but alive. They had won. But as he thought about Minji and all the others who had died, the victory felt hollow. He opened a channel to Admiral Sunwoo. "Sir, requesting permission to return to Earth." "Granted, Captain. You've earned rest. All of you have." Deho closed the channel and stared out at the stars. They looked different now. Less beautiful. More dangerous. He wondered if they would ever look the same again. He wondered if he would ever feel clean again, after what they had done. But Earth was safe. For now, that had to be enough. 6 months after the Battle of Terra, the Galactic Council convened for the most important vote in 4 centuries. The chamber was packed with delegates from every member species. Security was tight. Tensions were high. Everyone knew this vote would reshape the galaxy's political order. Ambassador Juno sat in Earth's designated seat, watching the other delegates file in. Some avoided his eyes. Others stared at him with open hostility. A few nodded respectfully. The galaxy was divided on what to do about humanity, and this vote would settle the question once and for all. Councillor Velm stood at the central podium. "We gather today to vote on the Telmorian proposal. The question before us is simple. Should Earth be granted senior species status with full voting rights in this council?" The Vacrine delegate rose immediately. He was not Fleet Lord Krevshawn, who had died in the battle. This was someone new, someone who had seen the footage of antimatter weapons vaporizing Vacrine ships. This is madness. They are barbarians. They destroyed our fleets. They attacked neutral territory. And you want to reward them? They defended themselves, Velen replied calmly. Against aggression that this council voted to support. Perhaps the real question is why we thought it acceptable to threaten them in the first place. Another delegate stood. They use weapons of mass destruction without hesitation. They fight without honor. How can we trust such a species with power in the council? Jun-Ho rose to respond. He spoke quietly, but his voice carried through the chamber. You speak of honor. What honor was there in demanding Earth surrender its freedom? What honor was there in sending 300 ships to destroy one planet? You call us barbarians because we fought back with everything we had. But we only used those weapons after you left us no choice. He paused. If you want a galaxy where might makes right, where the strong dictate to the weak, then reject this proposal. But know that Earth will never bow again. Not to you. Not to anyone. The chamber fell silent. Then Councillor Velen called for the vote. The results came in slowly. 5 species voted in favor of Earth's elevation to senior status. 4 voted against. 2 abstained. By the slimmest of margins, humanity had won a seat at the table of galactic power. Krung, Hiren, received the news in her office on Earth. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt tired. The war was over, but the cost had been enormous. 23,000 humans dead, 67 ships destroyed, and the knowledge that Earth had used weapons that could sterilize planets. She called Admiral Sunwoo to her office. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. The war had aged them all. We won, she said. Did we? Sunwoo replied, We're alive. We're independent. But at what cost? The only cost we could afford to pay, Hiren said. Our freedom. Sunwoo nodded slowly. I've been thinking about my new position. Galactic Defense Coordinator. Do you know what that really means? It means making sure we're never in this position again. It means building a military strong enough that no one will dare attack us. It means we become what we fought against, Hiren said quietly. No, it means we protect ourselves and our allies. The Telmorians stuck their necks out for us. So did 2 other species. We owe them our loyalty. And there are others out there, junior species living under the thumb of the Council's senior members. Maybe we can help them too. Be careful, Admiral. Liberation can look a lot like conquest if you're not careful. I know, Sunwoo said. That's why I need people like you to keep me honest. We didn't fight for freedom just to take it from others. Captain Dae-Ho stood in the new Earth Naval Academy, looking at the eager faces of the cadets before him. They were so young. They looked at him with admiration, seeing a war hero. They didn't see the nightmares that woke him at night. They didn't see the faces of the people who had died under his command. War is not glorious, he told them. War is ugly and brutal, and it leaves scars that never heal. We won because we were willing to do things that our enemy wasn't prepared for. We won because we refused to lose. But every victory cost lives. Remember that when you take command of your own ships someday, every decision you make, people live or die because of it. The cadets listened intently. They would learn tactics and strategy from books. But Dae-Ho hoped to teach them something more important, the weight of command and the price of war. After class, a young cadet approached him. She looked familiar. Captain Dae-Ho? I'm Ensign Nari Park. Minji was my sister. Dae-Ho felt his throat tighten. She was the best officer I ever served with. She saved my life in the mission at Mars. She saved Earth. I know, Harry said. I want to be like her. I want to serve on your ship someday." Daiho looked at this young woman and saw Minji's determination in her eyes. "Then work hard and learn everything you can. The galaxy is changing. We'll need good officers to navigate it." In the Vacrine Dominion, the Empire was crumbling. 14 client species had declared independence during the chaos following the defeat. The Dominion's military was shattered. Their economy was in ruins. The proud empire that had threatened Earth now struggled to hold itself together. The new Vacrine leadership sent a formal communication to Earth, not through the Council, directly. Requested a meeting to discuss terms. Ambassador Junho, now Senior Counselor Junho with his elevated status, met with the Vacrine representative on a neutral space station. The Vacrine diplomat was humble, a stark contrast to the arrogance Earth had faced before. "We seek peace," the diplomat said. "The war was a mistake. We underestimated your resolve. We paid dearly for that error. What are you offering?" Junho asked. "Recognition of Earth's sovereignty, a non-aggression pact, trade agreements on fair terms. We ask only that you do not support further rebellions within our remaining territory." Junho considered this. Earth could press the advantage, help more species break free from Vacrine control. But that would prolong the conflict and create more suffering. Sometimes peace was worth more than vengeance. "We accept your terms," Junho said. "But know this, if you ever threaten Earth or our allies again, we won't show mercy a second time." The Treaty of Seoul was signed 3 months later. Earth and the Telmarians formed a mutual defense pact. 3 other species quietly joined. A new power block was forming in the galaxy, one based on mutual respect rather than domination. Dr. Yona led a scientific exchange program with the Telmarians. They shared technology and knowledge freely, something the old council had always restricted. The innovations that came from this cooperation benefited both species. She often thought about how much progress could have been made over the centuries if the council had encouraged cooperation instead of competition. Engineer Taiyun continued his work on military technology, but now he also focused on peaceful applications. The fusion technology that powered the deadly lasers could also power cities cleanly and efficiently. The same minds that had designed weapons of war now worked on tools for exploration and construction. Premier Hyren retired after serving out her term. She had done what she set out to do, keep Earth free. Now it was time for new leadership to guide humanity into this strange new future. At her retirement ceremony, she spoke to a crowd of thousands. "We are no longer the newest species in the galaxy. We are no longer the weakest. But we must never forget where we came from. We fought for freedom, not for power. We fought to be left alone, not to dominate others. As we move forward, let that be our guide. Be strong enough that no one dares threaten us. Be wise enough that we don't become the threat." On the anniversary of the Battle of Terra, a memorial was unveiled in Geneva. It listed the names of all those who had died defending Earth. 23,000 names carved in black stone. Captain Daiho stood before it with other veterans, remembering friends and comrades who would never see the peace they had won. A young officer approached him. It was Ensign Nari, Minji's sister. She had graduated at the top of her class and earned a position on the Indomitable. "Sir, I wanted to ask you something," she said. "Was it worth it? All the death, all the destruction?" Daiho looked up at the stars visible in the twilight sky. Human ships patrolled up there now, not as subjects of the Council, but as equals. Earth was safe. Humanity was free. The cost had been terrible, but the alternative would have been worse. "We didn't start this war," he said finally. "We didn't want it. But when they came to take our freedom, we fought back with everything we had. We showed the galaxy that humans will not be conquered, will not be controlled, will not bow to anyone. He turned to look at her. 23,000 people died so that billions could live free. Was it worth it? Ask them. He gestured to the planet below, where children played in parks without fear, where people made their own choices about their own lives. Nari nodded slowly. She understood. In the council chambers, Senior Counselor Junho cast Earth's first official vote as a senior species. The issue was minor, a trade dispute between two other species. But the symbolism was enormous. Humanity had a voice in galactic affairs now, a voice that would be heard and respected. After the session, Counselor Val approached him. Congratulations on your elevation. I hope we can work together in the years to come. As do I, Juno replied. Earth remembers its friends, Counselor. The Talmorians stood by us when others wanted us destroyed. We won't forget that. And we won't forget that Earth showed us that the old ways don't have to be the only ways, Velm said. Perhaps together we can build something better than what came before. Junho smiled. Perhaps we can. Admiral Sunwoo stood on the observation deck of Earth's new defense station, built at the edge of the Sol system. From here, human ships could respond to any threat before it reached the inner planets. The defensive perimeter now extended 50 light years from Earth. An allied species contributed ships to patrol it. He thought about the journey humanity had taken. From a species barely noticed by the galaxy to a power that had reshaped galactic politics. They had paid for it in blood and fire, but they had emerged stronger. More importantly, they had emerged free. A young lieutenant approached with a datapad. Sir, we have requests from 3 more species wanting to join the Soul Tree. They're all junior species who want protection from their senior neighbors. Sunwoo took the pad and reviewed the requests. More responsibility, more commitments, more potential conflicts, but also more allies, more friends. A better galaxy, perhaps. Tell them we'll consider their applications carefully, he said. But make sure they understand, we don't offer protection in exchange for submission. We offer partnership between equals. If they can accept that, then we'll talk. The lieutenant saluted and left. Sunwoo turned back to the viewport and watched the stars. They seemed brighter now than they had during the war, full of possibility rather than threat. Earth had fought for its freedom and won. But more than that, humanity had shown the galaxy a different way forward. A way where strength didn't mean domination, where power didn't mean oppression, where the young didn't have to bow to the old, simply because that's how things had always been. The Galactic Council would never be the same. The old hierarchy was broken. In its place was something new and uncertain. Some species would resist the change. Others would embrace it. But everyone understood one fundamental truth now. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. Not through patience and gradual acceptance. Not through bowing to those who claimed to be superior. But through courage, determination, and the willingness to fight for what they believed in. The war was over. The future was uncertain. But Earth stood ready to face whatever came next, not as a subject species, hoping for scraps from the table, but as an equal partner in galactic affairs. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.